Microsoft's making Xbox backwards compatibility a little bit better today. Xbox and backwards compatibility, peanut butter and jelly, spaghetti and meatballs, they go together hand in hand. Microsoft has built a rich legacy around the fact that if you buy a game on Xbox, it will travel through you with the generations of consoles, dating all the way back to the Xbox One. It has been a hallmark feature of the brand that you can play legacy titles on your current generation console. Even further than that, Microsoft has gone to make those legacy titles not just available, but in many cases better with things like FPS boost and auto HDR. Those legacy titles not only play better, but they look better. And you're getting anywhere from 30 to an additional 60 frames per second, meaning some of your legacy titles will support up to 120 frames per second on current generation hardware. And considering that it costs no dollar dues to get you there, that's a pretty cool thing that Microsoft is doing. Is there, no games left behind, if you will. Now, today, Microsoft is announcing that they are adding 74 more titles to their backwards compatible library that support FPS boost. This brings the total up to 97 games. 97 games in Microsoft's backwards compatibility catalog now support this feature, which means that you're getting additional benefits for games that you may already own, have already played, but you can play them on your current generation hardware at a more modern frame rate. It'll make them feel and look better as long as they support all the features and functionality. This is a pretty big deal. Now, while I don't necessarily think gamers are going to, or I should say consumers, are going to go out and explicitly buy an Xbox console because of FPS boost or auto HDR, I do think it starts to build the narrative as to why somebody might buy an Xbox console, because there's a couple things that happen here. By Microsoft bringing all these games, not only from the legacy catalog forward and making them better, it gives you a lot of confidence that if you buy a game on Xbox, it will travel with you through the generations as you continue to buy more and more Xbox hardware down the road in the years ahead. And that is a big deal, because there's nothing worse than investing in a huge catalog of games, then you go to play it on your current console and you can't. Now, I'm sure there's definitely outliers in the Xbox catalog that do not work on current devices, but I also know that there are a lot of titles from way back to the Xbox One days that currently work on the existing, or the consoles that you can go out and buy today, if you can find one on the store shelves. That might actually be the hardest part about this whole thing. But this is a legacy that Microsoft has built, and they're embracing, and with the announcement today that they nearly have 100 games, that is a big deal. Now, this continues Microsoft's sort of pledge to gamers. The cool thing here is, by bringing these titles forward, and you also start to sprinkle in things like cloud save, and then you also bring in things like cloud gaming, you can begin to understand that while yes, you can play these older games on existing hardware today, soon you'll be able to play them anywhere. You'll be able to play them on your console, in your browser, anywhere else, and not to mention, because it uses the Microsoft's cloud save technology, you'll be able to pick up on the go everywhere you want to play. You got to understand the narrative that is building around cloud gaming, backwards compatibility, and everything else that Microsoft is doing. Cloud gaming is one component. You have current games. We all know that Quad A and AAA, or whatever you want to call them titles, are extremely important, and Microsoft has invested pretty heavily, especially with things like Bethesda. And then you also have the hardware and endpoint model as well. And so Microsoft continues to keep this multi-pronged attack on the gaming industry to position themselves as not only a leader in the technology with things like cloud gaming, but also a purveyor of the gamer ethos, that your games are your games and they come with you and they can travel with you, and you don't have to abandon them with previous generations. And so FPS boost, I'm not going to sit here and read all 74 titles, because that'd be ridiculous. There'll be a link down in the description below if you want to go check out and see if any of your titles or your favorite legacy games are being added, but there's quite a few. I would imagine Microsoft will cross the 100 game barrier here in the near future, but for now there's 97 games, and this is Microsoft's continuing march forward to try to prove to the industry that, one, it is here for the long haul, two, it has some of the best technology, and three, it's a great place to play games. Microsoft has really turned around the Xbox org and their marketing lately, and this is just, again, another milestone on the road to making Xbox the premier place to play games, current and previous.